2020 has been a hard year for us all in one way or another, but thankfully we had some amazing games to distract us. The JRPG genre was a particular bright spot with a number of high-profile remakes and long-awaited sequels. So with the goal of celebrating some of my favorites this year, I wanted to count down my top 5 JRPGs of 2020. But before I begin, I wanted to clarify a few things because I'm sure I'd hear about it in the comments if I didn't. First off, I won't be including enhanced re-releases like Dragon Quest XI-S or Persona 5 Royal. They're both amazing games that would be high on this list, but they've already had their day in the sun. I also don't consider 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim a JRPG as much as I loved it, so I won't be including that either. Be sure to leave your favorite JRPGs in the comments below, and if you enjoy JRPG content, definitely subscribe for more videos all throughout 2021. One game I did not expect to be on this list at the beginning of the year was Fairy Tail. Sure, it looked promising, but how good could it really be? To be honest, it's kind of middling. Levels are fairly small, there's plenty of graphical blemishes, and at times there just straight up aren't character models for certain characters. That all being said, Fairy Tail just scratched a lot of itches for me when it comes to games. The first being the jobs board system. Like in the anime, you're taking job requests and fulfilling them, which are essentially just side quests. What made this so addicting for me were how quick they were to finish and how completing quests fed into other systems. You can level up facilities in your guild house as well as your relationships with other characters by doing these quests. Leveling these up gives you access to better tools and new abilities. This quickly became a very addictive game loop for me. It was so addicting, in fact, that I ended up getting the Platinum Trophy for Fairy Tail on PS4. It helps that Fairy Tail has a great combat system. It's a turn-based one in which you can have up to 5 characters in your party. Each of the 16 characters have their own specialty and way they can hit enemies across the grid they're on. Trying each character out to see what they could do was fun and always kept combat fresh. And I'd be lying if I said that fan service didn't play a part in getting Fairy Tail on this list. Every character has a variety of costumes you can collect, including swimwear. There's also the proverbial beach episode that the game really leans into. Overall though, Fairy Tail is a surprisingly fun budget RPG that I hope gets a sequel sometime in the future. Coming in at number 4 is Yakuza Like a Dragon. I have to admit, I was hesitant about the change in combat style and the brand new protagonist, but it turns out I had nothing to worry about. Like a Dragon's protagonist, Ichiban Kasuga, is just so likable. He's loyal, upbeat, and is willing to do whatever it takes to accomplish his goals. This shines through not only during the main story, but in more intimate ways with the character side stories. He's willing to listen to his friends' issues and help out however he can. I thought this was a really neat way to learn more about your party members' backstories, while also giving them enhancements in and out of combat. Not to mention, Ichiban's a bit of a Dragon Quest fanboy, so this wins him some brownie points for me. The change from an action brawler combat system to a turn-based one also works surprisingly well. I thought it would be annoying to constantly break up the momentum of exploring the city with this style of combat, but the battles are so quick and snappy that it just works. Various jobs are also really creative. I love how Namba's homeless guy job has him belching foul breath, while Idol can seduce enemies so they won't attack you. And we can't forget those side activities because oh boy did I get addicted. The can collecting game starts off slow and simple, but you'll need it for crafting materials later on, and I just couldn't get enough. I ended up playing it sometimes just to try and beat my high score. The business management game was even more addicting. Shuffling around employees, picking which aspects to enhance, and surviving the board member meetings was a total blast. Let's hope this isn't the last we've seen of Ichiban and his crew because I'm so ready for more. So many games these days feel like they have to have giant open worlds. They can be fun but also tiring after a while. And because of this, playing a game with a classic design philosophy like Trials of Mana was so refreshing. I love this more linear structure and simple story. You're not flooded with a million side quest markers on your map, but rather you're just trying to get to the next story beat. This allowed for a tighter and more enjoyable experience overall. Don't get me wrong, I love my 60+ hour epics, but also welcome 20-hour ones like Trials of Mana. One aspect of the story that I thought was really unique was how you start the game. You pick from 6 different characters, with one being your main character and the other 2 being your party that you find along the way. Sure, this limits your party size, but getting to see and learn about each character before the game even began was pretty neat. I think what really makes Trials of Mana work though is its combat. You'll be getting into combat quite a bit and it's just really fun. On the outside it may seem like a simplistic action system, but it has some subtle depth to it. You earn points whenever you level up that you can dump into skills, essentially letting you build characters however you want. After a certain point in the game, you also change character classes. Each class not only learns new abilities, but also has sweet looking outfits. I'm not gonna lie, unlocking new classes to see what their new outfits looked like was one of my favorite parts of Trials of Mana. I love when you get to visibly see gear changes on your characters. Oh, and the game looks pretty incredible as well. It has this very pastel color scheme that I enjoyed quite a bit. Trials of Mana isn't going to win any awards for its art style, but for what the game was going for, it fits the vibe perfectly. 2020 saw a ton of remakes, and Trials of Mana was easily one of the very best. One game I knew I was going to enjoy but didn't expect to love as much as I did was Sakura Wars. It has so many things that I look for in games, like a great art style, gripping story, and fun combat system. But the glue that held it all together for me were the characters. Each of the 5 main girls have such unique and endearing personalities. Sakura is the cute childhood friend who's always doing her best and you can't help but cheer for her. Hatsuo is a bit of a tomboy but also has a softer side and she lets it show from time to time. But my personal favorite character was Claris. She's the adorable bookworm who has a passion for writing. And I won't spoil it here, but her endgame cutscene is easily the best of the bunch. Most of Sakura Wars is spent in the adventure-style story segments where you'll explore and get into conversations. On paper, this probably sounds boring and shouldn't work, but the writing is just so excellent that I couldn't wait to see what happened next. I loved watching each character grow and learning more about each. But you don't just experience a story passively, you're regularly asked to make dialogue choices that can not only elicit hilarious responses, but also impacts which of the 5 girls you'll end up with at the end of the game. Having replayed Sakura Wars several times from start to finish to get the Platinum Trophy, it was fun to choose the really ridiculous choices just to see what happened. The other big portion of Sakura Wars is the mech combat segments. Here you'll pilot mechs in action hack-and-slash combat. You'll mostly be fighting off hordes of demons, but also against other mech pilots in the World Games arc of the story. The best 2 characters in combat are easily Anastasia and Hatsuho. Anastasia has incredible range with her gun, and Hatsuho can take out groups of enemies with her giant hammer. Sadly, my girl Claris is probably the weakest with her magic book. And I can't talk about Sakura Wars without mentioning its incredible main theme. If you've been following my channel this year, you've probably heard the song quite a few times in my other videos. I can't help it, I just love it. It gets me pumped up every time I listen to it. Here's hoping this isn't the last we've seen of this series because I've completely fallen in love with it and I want so much more. What can I say about Final Fantasy VII Remake that I haven't already said in a dozen other videos this year? Simply put, it was the best overall gaming experience I had in 2020 and is without question my game of the year. The original Final Fantasy VII is one of my all-time favorite games, and to see it so lovingly recreated filled me with joy. I loved simply walking around Midgar to soak in familiar locales. I loved the new sequences like visiting Jesse's home and rescuing Marlene before the plate fell. And maybe most of all, I loved getting to know some of my favorite video game characters all over again. Square Enix breathed new life into these characters like I never thought possible. They were more than polygonal caricatures, they felt real. They have passions, fears, and motivations that come through in more believable ways than in almost any game I've ever played. I never really got attached to Aerith in the original Final Fantasy VII like I think Square hoped its players would, but in Remake, she's incredible. She's fun, sassy, and caring. And depending on what happens to her in the next part of the Remake series, I don't think I can handle losing her. Actually, playing Final Fantasy VII Remake was a blast as well. The random trash mobs are fun because you actually have to think about how you want to stagger them. You no longer just mindlessly pick attacks from a menu. And the bosses were on a whole nother level. Not only was the music absolutely incredible, but each boss felt like a spectacle. There were so many phases and mid-battle cutscenes that made each one feel super cinematic. And repurposing normal enemies from the original game as bosses in the remake like Hill House was an amazing touch. Waiting for the rest of these games in the series is going to be absolutely agonizing, but if Square Enix can continue with this level of quality, this could go down as one of my all-time favorite gaming series. Now, if you want to hear about my favorite story in gaming for 2020, be sure to check out last week's video about 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim. It's an incredible game that more people need to play. And if you're wondering where Cold Steel 4 is on this list, be sure you're subscribed because I'll be sharing my thoughts on that entire series real soon. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.